Welcome to another episode of BVP Sports. I'm the VP,
Fine.
Brian. Guys, today we're going to be discussing our biggest takeaways of the NFL draft so far, rounds 1 through 3. And knowing that I'm a Green Bay fan, that my partner over here is a Patriots fan, I can't lie, it's been tough.
It's been a rough 48 hours.
I'm not understanding where we're at. But needless to say, I still have takeaways.
We have analysis. It's quite frankly just not positive analysis for our two teams. We have positive analysis for 30 teams of the league, but not our two teams.
You're not going to hear a single positive word from me about the Green Bay Packers today. It didn't work out. Yesterday didn't work out either. And I'm not going to lie with you. To the audiences at home, I'm hammered. And I'm going to get ruthless. And I hope you're ready.
I'm ready. This is actually bullet point number 1 on my biggest takeaways from the 2020 draft so far. I have on my list, all I have is how do you feel about the Packers taking Jordan Love? But at this point, let's expand it. How do you feel about the first 3 rounds of the Packers draft so far? Give me your just open, honest thoughts.
All right. Well, being that I'm a diehard Packers fan, I'll try and do this as quick as I can. It seemed as though that Gutekunst has basically set up, instead of Aaron Rodgers, which everyone thought was the obvious decision, they have decided to set up LaFleur instead. And by doing that, they go out there and they get a quarterback who might not play for 5 fucking years, but is going to be around for a long time. Hopefully, right? Then second round, where everyone thought there was going to be a wide receiver taken, in which there were good wide receivers still available. I think that we were trying to go for Mims. I think that was the objective there, and Mims got taken by the Jets 2 picks before us, which that's okay. But to then go and say A.J. Dillon out of Boston College, I mean, look, I get it. A.J. Dillon, powerful running back. Not a guy that you're going to see catch the ball, not a guy that you're going to see really try and bust it outside, more of just a straightforward running back who can definitely get us a few yards upfield and can be seen as a pass blocking running back at times. But do I think it was the right time to take him in the second round? Absolutely not. Do I think it was the right time to even take a running back at all this draft? Possibly not either in that regard either. I mean, you're looking at a team that had Jamal Williams, who had the pass blocking, and Aaron Jones, who basically had everything else for us. Both of them were going to have a contract all the way through this year and next. There was absolutely no reason at all for us saying that A.J. Dillon was an appropriate pick there. Doesn't make sense, okay? So let's just address that first off. Now, second off, tight end, okay? We get some fucker out of Cincinnati. I don't care to know his name because, truth be told, I don't think he's going to actually do anything for us. We spent a third-round pick on some fuck-ass from Cincinnati when we have Sternberger out of Texas A&M, who was down the entire year with injury, third-round pick last year. Make that fucking make sense. You can't. You can't make that make sense. Zero. Okay? And then on top of that, with the tight end situation, we have Robert Tonyan, who has shown flashes of that he could be a starting tight end in the league for the Green Bay Packers. We don't even think about it. We don't even fucking think about it, okay? Mercedes Lewis, a great blocking tight end for us, great veteran. And instead, no, we're going to go tight end still. Some fuck-ass from Cincinnati. Great.
I have a tweet that I sent to you, Mr. VP, and looks like you haven't opened it yet. I'd like to read it. This was before you guys took the tight end. So I'll add to this tweet in my own words. Packers offensive weapon upgrades for Aaron Rodgers. Backup QB, third running back, third string tight end.
It's accurate. It's accurate. And that's
Incredible.
where I was going to go with my last point. I was going to take my last point and go with Jordan Love, just because I feel like that's where I've got the most to talk about is with Jordan Love pick. You know, had I had seen some adjusted picks with a wide receiver or a linebacker in the second and third round, I would have been absolutely okay with Jordan Love at 26. Trading up 26, I would have been okay with it. I would have said, I get it, I understand. There's definitely been some problems with Rodgers. He's not as accurate as he once was. He's definitely not as mobile as he once was. And you could also say that as far as him being able to stay healthy, that has been a bit of a problem for us in the years. So I get it. Okay, I'm not going to say that was a bad pick. I understand taking Jordan Love, especially if on Gutekunst's big board we had Jordan Love above anyone else. You know, if we were saying that a bunch of these wide receivers that were going to be in that first round range had the same value as a second round pick, you know, we're like a, let's say a Justin Jefferson to us was the same as a Laviska Shenault or a T Higgins. I'd say, yeah, I completely get it. You know, that's fine. Go and take Jordan Love. Go get the quarterback of the future. But the fact of the matter is, we didn't. There was no wide receiver taken. There was no linebacker taken. We get a tight end, which honestly, as sad as it fucking sounds, that was one of our only priorities in the draft was wide receiver, tight end, inside linebacker. And we get ourselves a tight end, which truth be told, I don't believe that tight end's an issue, but that's what people say. Okay?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, to your point, I completely agree. If they would have, I would understand the Jordan Love move a hell of a lot more if they spent the rest of their draft picks loading up, maybe trading up, getting some extra weapons for Rodgers, maybe even an O lineman for God's sakes, like just something. But
I thought we were going Josh Jones out of Houston. I thought was
there were good options. There were good options. I don't get it. I quite frankly don't get it. And
I don't think there's a single Packers fan out there right now that understands the thought process behind it. Okay, if you're gonna get Jordan Love,
but
I expect the wide receiver in the second. But Jordan Love to AJ Dillon, absolutely outrageous of a pick for me. It just does not solve any of the needs that we have. There's
oh,
an argument to be
that's
made that
absurd.
our two strongest positions were literally quarterback and running back, and you go out there and you get a
Yeah.
backup quarterback and you get a third string running back, and you say that's going to help solve the problem.
It's been a mind blowing draft for me for the Packers. I would say by far, if I had to rank draft so far, I would put the Packers dead last by far.
I don't think that there is anyone that could make an argument as to say anyone else. I
Yeah,
don't I
no,
don't, I don't think it's possible.
it's been mind blowing to me.
And
I
it's
have no other words.
surprising. It's also extremely surprising as to how bad we've done in the draft, considering that Gutekunst in the off season, before the season started last year, went out there and made arguably some of the best acquisitions that a GM could make for a team. You go out there and you
Yeah,
get Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith, Adrian Amos, and you get Billy Butler on the line, and it's like, I mean, that is not bad for a guy who was taking control literally within the year. You
yeah,
know, and you think, okay, the promise is there. We've revamped, we've revamped our GM position. Ted Thompson's out. We're finally going to make some moves in free agency, and instead, what we see is the revamps in free agency come through. They come through, and then where Ted Thompson actually does well in the draft, Gutekunst absolutely just bails on it.
it's been horrific. I it's just got to be tough as a Packers fan. Clearly, I'm not, but putting myself in your shoes, it's got to be tough when you see the 49ers, for example, the team that you lost to in the NFC Championship, when you see them adding all these pieces, adding a 10 out of 10 D lineman, adding some wide receivers, adding weapons all over the place, getting better for this year. And quite frankly, I don't think any of the pieces you guys have drafted so far have I don't think they've been picked in order to make you guys better this season. I think they'll probably make you better 3 years down the road, but this season they're not going to do shit. I don't get it.
I mean, I think definitely if you want to say who is drafting for the future, Packers take the cake. No doubt about it.
I
But
would say if you just looked if you didn't know anything about the current landscape or current rosters of the NFL, if you didn't know how the season ended last year, and you only looked at if you only looked at draft picks so far this year, you would I think you'd completely say the Packers are 100% in rebuild mode,
Oh, 100%.
and they
And
just came out of a championship game.
that's the confusing thing. And once again, all right, taking that I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, I've probably heard more about this than most people who are Packers fans or just NFL fans in general. But I understand the argument of saying, yes, we were one game out of being in the Super Bowl, but truth be told, we had a soft schedule and we got lucky in getting basically where we were in the playoffs, and then we performed rather well against a Seattle team that probably should have beat us. I can understand that entirely, but I think that it would be foolish to say that let's take all of the what ifs. What if we didn't beat the Detroit Lions? What if we lost in the playoffs? Which is absolutely, it's all a possibility. We're not that 13-3 team, you know? We're not. But the fact of the matter remains is that we did. We went 13-3 and we made it to the NFC Championship. And you could say the only thing that stopped us was the fact that we didn't have a good enough core at the wide receiver position, and we didn't have any inside line help or any, at least from the defensive line, that was able to stop the run. I get it. They were able to basically go horizontal on us and get that run outside and be able to beat the linebackers and beat the edge off the run with especially with the O line that they had. San Francisco doing really well in a lot of aspects of their team so far. But regardless, I mean, it just doesn't seem like the Packers are there to win a Super Bowl, despite that 13-3 season. And it seemed as if just a few picks, bolstering up that inside line and the wide receivers would have put us in a pretty admirable situation for a Super Bowl run. And instead, Gutekunst decides to just go a complete different direction.
Yeah. I mean, I would say if you took 4 of the Packers' top draft picks, addressed them to current needs based on last year's ending, and I mean, if you guys took players in those positions, I would be here right now saying I think the Packers are a Super Bowl contender. Whereas now I'm looking at it after the first 3 rounds, I don't think they are. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they're doing shit in the playoffs, though.
The only thing,
They're not better than last year. They're worse.
Well, I won't say that just yet. I won't say that just yet. And I'll end it on here before we get to some other takeaways that we have, because we have spent a long time on this. I'll end it with this. I have to believe that Gutekunst believes that the value for the team is in the later rounds. I have to believe that. Okay. And then to top that, I have to think that he thinks that Devin Funchess is going to do more than I guess what most people would think. And he's going to be a good wide receiver too for Aaron Rodgers. Now, do I believe that? I don't know. I'm not entirely there just yet. But someone apparently in that organization believes that Devin Funchess is a good too. And they apparently think that with not picking a wide receiver in the first 3 rounds, that Allen Lazard could be that wide receiver 3. On top of that, I also believe that getting rid of Blake Martinez, but bringing in Christian Kirksey, they think that that's going to help stop that inside run, and that's going to be able to be a good addition to basically stopping the 49ers, basically, from putting up 200 and fucking, 30 yards against us in the NFC Championship game, you know? So we'll see what happens, but I think those two things, the free agency moves that we made, I have to believe are what the organization as a whole is thinking, is what's going to basically keep us in contention for a Super Bowl chance, because the draft did not show anything at all.
The free agency moves to me sound like decent replacements. They don't sound like upgrades. But maybe to the GM, they sound differently. So we will see. Okay. My next takeaway. Connor, give me your unbiased. No, you know what? Give me your biased, honest, just hard to the bone thoughts on the Patriots selection so far.
Truth be told, I think that it's pretty obvious to assume that the Patriots have kind of been unorthodox in their draft so far, which, once again, I'll say, as unorthodox as it is, it's also basically the Patriots' way. They go out there and they take a few players that I think a lot of people would say is a bit of a reach. And yet, as Bill Belichick has shown time and time again, I have to believe these reaches are going to turn out well for the Patriots.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. I mean, me and the VP were texting all throughout tonight's draft. Obviously, the Patriots didn't have a draft or a pick in the first round, so all 5 of their current picks came tonight. We were texting about each one, and I remember the first 2 picks. I was pissed. As a Patriots fan, I was pissed. I was shocked. I was disappointed. I was sad. Quite frankly, I was sad. Um, but now looking at it with these full 5 draft picks that we have so far, I wouldn't say I'm not happy about it, just in the sense that it kind of cements the fact that we are in a rebuild mode for the season. I think that's a kind of a hard fact to accept as a Patriots fan after these last few years. But I mean, looking at it, we got 2 tight ends. I think odds are, I mean, both of these tight ends, if you ask any draft analysts, they say that they were each a bit of a reach. I'm guessing the thought process there is, these are 2 athletic guys. Hopefully one of them really hits. And if not, they can't get worse than the 2 tight ends we have on the roster right now. So
I will say, let me put this out here for you real quick. When was the last time that the Patriots took 2 tight ends in the first 3 rounds?
okay, so I was thinking about that. I did. No. It's actually the first 4 rounds. But what I was thinking is, when was the last time the Patriots took 2 tight ends in the same draft? And I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was probably the Gronk Hernandez era.
It absolutely was.
So
Absolutely. So, I mean, we'll see.
we'll see. I mean, both these tight ends, I was looking at their measurables, bro. They're both 6'4 plus, 240. One's 245, one's pushing 260, and they both run 4.7 40s.
I mean, Devin Asiasi, I'm in love with him. All right, that was one of
Really?
the I thought. Yeah, I thought that the Packers would go out there, and I thought that we would get him later on. Honestly, that's a great pickup for them. I think he's going to do really well, especially considering that the Patriots really have no tight end options as of now.
0. So I like the tight end moves. Looking at their first pick, the 37th overall pick, Kyle Duggar, safety from a D2 no-name school.
It's a shocker.
I've done a lot of research about it, trying to make myself feel better. He's crazy athletic. He'll play anywhere. I don't know. I'm trying to find positives. I know he's a damn good player, and I think he'll do fine. It's more of just a question of, there were probably 10 to 15 guys on the board still that we could have got, and instead we ended up with a D2 prospect. I don't know how to feel about that yet.
I mean, but that's Bill Belichick at his finest.
Oh, it is.
And you gotta say Bill Belichick has a plan, and you got to roll with it.
Well, the other thing is, though, if you go back and look, bro, he's taken, I believe it's like 7 or 8 defensive backs in the second round in the past 10 years. And it's like 3 or 4 of them are hits, but a solid 4 of them are just massive busts. So, I mean, it's not as certain as you'd think.
I mean, most guys are getting bust anyways. You're never gonna find a draft where you're gonna see a lot of the guys
Yeah,
actually turn out the way that you want them to. So, I mean,
that's
saying
true.
guys are gonna be busts, I mean, a lot of them are gonna be busts.
That's true.
I mean, it's
So
hard to judge someone and say, "Oh man, 6 of their draft picks turned out to be busts." I mean, that's most teams.
yeah. So overall with the Patriots, started off slow, started off sad, but when I look at it now, with the tight ends, linebackers, and safety that they drafted, I like it. I think it's setting themselves up well for the future. I might have liked a couple different moves, but overall, I'll take it.
Real quick, how do you feel about Anthony Jennings?
I don't know yet. The two linebackers I'm a little questionable on. Just because, in my opinion, from the little that I know, which I'm much more of an NFL guy than I am a college football guy, so I don't know how well educated I am to say these things. But from what I can tell, I feel like both of the linebackers we drafted are more situational players and 3 to 4 down linebackers, and that worries me a little bit. Um, but then again, he is a Saban product. He was productive at Alabama, so can't complain too much, especially for a third round pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think that both the linebackers that you got are going to be plug-in guys, and I think that truthfully, I mean, Belichick's going to find a role for both of them. I still believe that Belichick is by far the best coach in the league, and I think that every single person that he drafts, he's got a plan for him, whether it turns out or not. He's got a plan set in place, which is why sometimes you see these unorthodox picks where he takes someone that you wouldn't really see until maybe a later round. But it seems as though they've got a vision as to what they want. They're going after strictly tight ends, which has been a system for them for a long time, and they're going after linebackers as well, and getting some defensive pieces, which has always been a staple for the Patriots as well. So it does seem as though the Belichick is going back towards what he's always done, which I think if you're Patriots fans, you have to uh, be okay with that decision for Belichick to go out there and maybe
Yeah.
take some risks on some players, but know that these players are what he's hoping is going to fit into the system that he's been so successful with.
I mean, at the end of the day, as much as I think I know about football, all I am is a fan. And as a Patriots fan, you just got to trust Belichick, and usually that works out. So we will see. Give it 2 years. I have a theory. We will get to this in a later video, but I have a whole planned out theory. I think Patriots will be Super Bowl contenders in 2021. Throwing it out there.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to follow that up, but if it happens, it happens.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Okay. So our third takeaway from the 2020 NFL Draft, rounds 1 through 3, we're going to discuss our biggest winners. So from the draft, Connor, you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'll start. And I think my biggest winner of the entire first 2 days of the draft is the Minnesota Vikings. I say that just because when you look at every single player that they've drafted, I mean, they have hit every single need for this upcoming season that they needed to fill. You look at them losing Stephon Diggs, they need a wide receiver. Who's the first thing they address? They get Justin Jefferson, who I believed was not going to be there for them at 22. They get him. So win right off the bat with Justin Jefferson. Then they go there, they trade back with their 26, they trade back all the way to 31, and they're still able to go out there and get Jeff Gladney, who is a great cornerback for them, especially when they lose Trey Waynes. All of a sudden, I mean, you're looking at a team who was able to fill 2 holes in the first round. That's incredible. But it doesn't
Yeah.
even go there. It stems all the way to their second round pick and third round pick. They get Ezra Cleveland in the second round, who that basically fills out their offensive line. I mean, the offensive line really was not that bad for Kirk Cousins, but you put in Cleveland, and all of a sudden you got yourself a top 10 offensive line for sure. with the weapons that he now has in Justin Jefferson, with Adam Thielen, and you still have Irv Smith, who's going to be a new tight end. They're going to be putting him in that system for sure this year. And you've got Kyle Rudolph, an old tight end, but still going to be definitely productive in this next season. On the offensive side of the ball, Mike Zimmer has done everything to make sure that Kirk Cousins is protected and has weapons to throw to. So there's no misses there. And then you want to take it one step further and you say they addressed cornerback already in the first round. They double up. They double up and they go out there and they take Cameron Datzler. I mean, you're talking about a Mississippi State guy that, had it not been for the fact that maybe he wasn't getting to play as much, or was maybe downplayed a little bit, just because the defense at Mississippi State was so stacked with our defensive talent in his earlier years. This guy has first round skill all over. And yet no one decides to jump on him in the second round. I thought he was definitely 100% second round talent. Drops all the way to third round. Vikings snag him. With that right there, I mean, that's 4 for 4. That's 4 for 4
Yeah.
Vikings, and I think that puts them definitely above anyone else in this draft right now for the best draft in 2020.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the Vikings draft, and quite frankly, all I see is what the Packers should have done.
That's hurtful.
It's hurtful and it's cold, but just the fact that they're in the same division, the fact that you're a Packers fan, that's all I see. That's what I compare it to. I forgot.
Everyone in my division has done better than we have, by far.
It's I was listening to a ESPN show today, and they're talking about how there's a famous like Steve Spurrier quote, and he says like before you can think about a national championship at the college level, or before you can think about a playoff run at the pro level, you have to worry about winning your division first. I mean, I look at it: Packers, Vikings, same division. Vikings are doing everything they can to win now. Packers are doing everything they can to be decent 3 years from now. So it's a damn good job by the Vikings.
Yeah, I mean, an absolute great play for the Vikings. I don't know if it's going to push them over the Packers because, as far as I'm concerned, yes, the Packers have not made any moves in this draft, but you
They're
got
still a standard.
that they basically kept everyone. The O line, outside of losing Brian Bulaga, but replaced him immediately with Rick Wagner, and then on top of that, we go out there, we lose Blake Martinez immediately. Christian Kirksey becomes our inside linebacker. So I still think division's wide open. But that's neither here nor there. Brian, who do you got for your top team in the draft so far?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'm ready to say this is my top, but this is definitely one of my top five. I love what the Baltimore Ravens have done so far, and I mean this kind of goes along with their offseason moves in general in free agency. Um, I mean, you saw them; they went what 13-3 last season. They were killing it all regular season.
14-2.
Were they really?
I think they might have been 14-2. Yeah.
Either way, I mean, they were on top of their shit last year. Made some big moves. Calais Campbell, in my opinion, is huge, a huge pickup for them. Usually, who they've added in the draft, I mean, you got Patrick Queen as your first round linebacker. I mean, you just go back the past 20 years, there's two linebackers before Patrick Queen the Ravens have drafted in the first round. Guess who they are? Ray Lewis and CJ Mosley.
Now, do you think that is going to basically replace CJ Mosley? Is Patrick Queen off the get go?
I mean, I don't know that they have the same skill set, but I think it's just kind of it's
Yeah,
almost a,
definitely they don't have the same skill set, but just as far as like that player that is going to
I think he'll be that presence, the same presence that Ray Lewis and C.J. Mosley were. I think he's gonna replicate that, and I mean, they're just when you look at the Ravens franchise over the past 25 years, you think of these big, strong, alpha personality linebackers. And I think Patrick Queen is going to ultimately, within the next couple of years, fall right into that. So I think that's a huge pickup. J.K. Dobbins, I mean, just add him to Mark Ingram and Lamar Jackson in that running game. That's scary as shit to me as a Patriots fan. I'm pissed. I hated it. I was I saw the pick. Um, but I love that for them at least. And then, I mean, they're just adding more depth everywhere else. Third round, they got a D lineman that's pretty good. They got another wide receiver, another linebacker, another guard. I mean, I look at this draft, I see a lot of depth added in most positions, and then I see some big upgrades in the linebacker and running back position. So I like what they've done. I think their team, the only reason I love this draft is not necessarily because it's a crazy draft board that they picked, but more because I think they were just a loaded roster to begin with. And any hole or any question you had about their roster going into the draft, I feel like they've addressed pretty well.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
look
Absolutely.
at them now. I don't know how you're going to beat them.
I mean, Justin Matabuki, I mean, that is just salt in the wound for anybody else that was trying to go out there and get themselves a defensive tackle. I mean, you're talking about a team that, I mean, they basically already had two starting
They
defensive
didn't
tackles.
need him. They didn't need him.
They didn't. They didn't need him at all. And instead, they said, we're going to go out there. We're going to take him anyways, just because all of a sudden we can put him in a plug-and-play situation. If Calais Campbell can't be out there for an unlimited snaps, I mean, the Ravens have done everything that they could to basically make sure they're going to the Super Bowl next year. And
I mean,
I'd
I
be
mean,
surprised.
it's
I'd be surprised if they weren't Super Bowl, at least in the Super Bowl next year, if not champions.
yeah. I mean, I feel like there's a big difference between, say, the Cowboys, who CD Lamb drops to them, and they look at it as a situation of we have a lot of needs, but CD Lamb is too big of a player. He's too good of a player to pass up on.
And I
There's
respect that
a
decision.
difference.
I do. I do.
There's a huge difference between taking CD Lamb in that position between what the Ravens did, where they look at it as we don't have any massive needs. We have some needs, but they're relatively minor. But our needs are minor enough to where we can take this guy, make a great thing incredible, and just take him. I mean, that's a beautiful situation to be in where you can just make good things even better because your entire roster is just good.
Yeah.
So I love where they're at mainly. And I'm also pissed. I cannot wait for Lamar Jackson to get that $45 million a year contract extension.
That won't happen. That won't happen.
Will.
All right. So Vikings, Ravens. I think that if we were going to put two more teams into it, I would go with the Arizona Cardinals. Um, and I don't know. I mean, there's so many different teams you could really say that have had a really good draft. Um, and you could go with teams that have had more draft picks, of course. I mean, Miami Dolphins have done quite well. Bengals have done quite well. Um, but there's been some hit and misses that I think are a bit questionable for both of those franchises. Whereas I look at the Arizona Cardinals, they've only had two picks in this draft so far, one in the first, one in the third. And I think both of them have been just absolute home run picks. You look at the Cardinals, the first round pick, Isaiah Simmons. I mean, if you were to tell them they were getting Isaiah Simmons, I think they would have laughed. You know, there was no way that they thought that Isaiah Simmons was getting past the Giants. And if they got past the Giants, they were getting past the Panthers. And yet, here they are sitting at 8, and they get Isaiah Simmons. Absolute steal for them. Then you go further and you say they don't have a pick till the third round now. There's absolutely nowhere they're going to get someone that is, a third round great value, except they do. They go out there and they get Josh Jones out of Houston, a fantastic pick. I mean, you want to talk about you bolstered the defensive side. You got a linebacker, wide receivers good, running back, and Kenyon Drake should come back good this year. That's what we're expecting at least. We'll see.
Yeah.
You got a good quarterback in Kyler Murray. What's the one thing that he would like to have? Maybe a little bit more protection. You get Josh Jones in the third round, who some had him mocked as a first-round pick, definite second pick. They get him in the third. I mean, that's a home round pick for me. And I think that Isaiah Simmons is a home run pick as well, even though, I mean, we kind of knew that they were either going to go after Isaiah Simmons, or if Isaiah Simmons was gone, they'd be getting Derek Brown. Either way, at number 8 for them, it was going to be a home run pick. They did it. And then when they got in that third round, they did it again. Absolutely no flaws for the Arizona Cardinals. For what they've been given, they've done well. And as you've seen with the Green Bay Packers, sometimes despite only being given, maybe 2 or 3 picks, if you can hit home runs on all of them, you're good. And there's some that just don't. Cardinals, absolutely 100%. Not a single bad pick so far for them. I have them in the top of the group for who has been just absolutely outstanding in the draft so far.
Yeah, I think they've killed it so far. I do worry a little bit about. I feel like with um, Isaiah, I feel like you do need a special type of defensive mind to really get him to reach his potential as a defensive player. I question if they have that, but overall, I love their 2 picks, so I agree with that. Um, as my as another team that I love, what they've done with the draft so far, I have the Carolina Panthers. They only have 3 picks for the through the first 3 rounds. I mean, you're talking about Derek Brown, easily top 10 player, great defensive lineman. Then you got an edge rusher in Yetur Gross Matos, probably just destroying that pronunciation. I mean, you got an interior D lineman who's just going to eat people alive. You got an edge rusher, and then the second round late they add Jeremy Chin, who's a bit of a wild card, but I think we can all agree. I think we think he'll be good. What's up?
I'd love to interject real quick. Jeremy Chin, okay, I get it. Put against the Miss, almost put up 77 on him. But Jeremy Chin, I saw him live. Great, great pick for them. Okay. I think that undervalued being that he was in a non-power 5 conference. I think for them, absolutely outstanding pick for them, especially with them bolstering defense both at their first round pick and second round pick. Gross Matos is a fantastic pick for them at linebacker. Penn State product. He absolutely killed it for them for Penn State. He's going to do the same thing, no question in my mind, for the Panthers. And then you look at Derek Brown. I mean, Derek Brown, do I even need to explain myself at all? I don't think I do. Derek Brown, a fantastic pick. Once again, a home run for the Panthers as well. They go 3 defense, and there's not a single bad pick. Brown, Gross Matos, Chin, all just absolutely phenomenal picks for the Panthers. I completely agree. They did
I
really
mean,
well in the draft so far.
they've had 3 picks and they've gotten better at 3 levels of their defense so far,
100%. 100%.
stopping and pass coverage. So that's incredible to me, especially for a first-year coach. I mean, you look at any of the great coaches, you ask them where to start as far as team building. They'll tell you interior line play for both sides and then defense. I mean, age-old quote, defense wins championships. Carolina Panthers have bolstered their defense. Their defense is 5 times better than it was 48 hours ago. So I really like that pick.
Matt Rule sticking to the defense. He did that at Baylor as well, trying to get that defense going. So sticking to his own playbook, and I like that too. Sometimes you see these college coaches, they get into the NFL and they try to make some moves that might not be the most comfortable move for them. He sticks exactly to what he knows, and I expect that the Panthers are probably going to make a little noise in the NFC South, which, as loaded as it might be already,
We will see. It's going to be the best division in football, I think, by far.
all right. So after going over kind of who we think kind of won the draft, I'd like to also talk about one team real quick, just because every year they seem to be in the discussion, did they make the right choices? And that's the New York Jets. They take Mekhi Becton at 11, or at 11, and then you think man, was that the right pick? They could have gone wide receiver. They had their choice of C.D. Lamb, Jerry Jeudy, and they decide to kind of pass on that, and not give Darnold any weapons. And they get, I would say, almost kind of lucky with getting Mims in that second round, late in that second round. Um, what kind of analysis do you have on that? Do you think that the Jets were safe in that, or should they have gone wide receiver in that first round? What are you thinking?
I think the Jets pulled a Jets move, quite frankly.
Hmm.
I'm not convinced Becton was the best tackle on the board when they
Oh,
picked him.
absolutely not.
Um, I mean, I might be a little biased, but I would have gone Wirfs from Iowa,
Yeah,
quite frankly.
and that's completely understandable.
So, just based on level of competition, body type, I mean, Wirfs he just looks like an offensive tackle. Um, I don't. I'm a little skeptical about Becton being over 350 pounds. I mean, I get the athletic ability, but come on, dude, stop eating so many fucking Big Macs. What the fuck out.
Well, my thing with Becton that worries me for the Jets is if you had the opportunity where, I mean, they literally were gift wrapped, whoever they wanted was still there, basically.
Yeah,
Unless Jedrick Wills was who they were going for, which that could have been a possibility. He got taken by 10 with Cleveland, but I mean, you had Wirfs right there. He was in your pocket. You had any wide receiver that you wanted, literally anyone, not a single wide receiver had been taken. And instead they go after Mekhi Becton, who later on in the draft, literally his girlfriend puts on Instagram saying, "I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy to know that you're beating this addiction." Beating this addiction. And you have to think to yourself, now, as far as like an addiction goes, sure, there's a lot of things that she could mean by that. I mean, clearly, I would not expect that someone's girlfriend would put out on a social platform that someone is beating a drug addiction or an alcohol addiction. I would hope, right?
it's
But needless
100%
to say,
weed.
the fact of the matter
100%.
remains, there's an addiction. And when you have either Mekhi Becton or Tristan Wirfs, who would basically benefit the team almost, as far as I'm concerned, the same, it confuses me as to why you would go after what would seem to be the controversial choice of the two.
Yeah, I look at it. Um, I mean, if I'm the Jets, bro, you have, like you said, you have your pick of the litter of wide receivers. I mean, all I can think is that the Jeffs personnel management was just in love with Becton and thought he was miles above every fucking other player on the board. Because if not, why wouldn't you take your number one wide receiver, whether it was Judy, Lamb, Ruggs, whoever, take him at 11 and then trade your second round pick and next year's second round pick to get up to like 15 and take Wirfs right there or Becton, whoever it is,
Well,
at 15.
what
Unless
I
he's worth
felt
that.
was
He's
going
worth
to
2 second round picks, are they not?
happen.
If they're
But where I thought they were going to go is I thought they wanted to address tackle first. That was their number one objective is despite whatever wide receivers are on the table, we want to address tackle. But I thought for sure that a team that really does not have a single offensive weapon for Darnold that I think would actually be, worthy of consideration for a good, good, option for him. They have Jamison Crowder, Brashad Perriman. I mean,
yeah,
these
yeah,
guys are Josh Doxson. I mean, none of these
shit.
guys really are showing any promise, as far as I'm concerned, for the New York Jets. I would have. I was absolutely shocked that there was no trade discussion, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there was a trade discussion and just nothing came through. But I really thought that with Dallas hunting for Jamal Adams, I thought that something would have been put in place to get Dallas's first round pick and more if that's what they were asking for. And in return, Dallas gets Jamal Adams. I thought that was going to happen, especially after they got Mekhi Becton. I thought it was, okay, we've addressed the tackle. Now let's still go out there, especially when CeeDee Lamb was still on the table, who I presume to be the best wide receiver out of this draft class. CeeDee Lamb still on the table for Dallas. I thought the Jets would have made a move. Instead, Dallas decides to keep it themselves, and they go after CeeDee Lamb, which we'll see how that turns out for them. But I really thought that's where the Jets would go with that. Instead, they wait, and in the second round, they go out there and they get Denzel Mims, who I still think is a good wide receiver, first-round talent, but nowhere near the level that CeeDee Lamb is.
It's I don't know. It was a questionable move. It'll be interesting to see if anything comes out as far as like any trade talks that were happening that maybe didn't pan out. I would like to think that they looked into some moves and those moves just didn't work out. But we'll see. If I was in charge of the Jets, I would have handled things a lot differently from what we think happened. So
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is that the Jets have decided to use their draft capital on wide receivers in this third day of rounds because I mean I don't see. I mean, they got Quincy Enunwa, but he's literally one more injury away from basically retirement. You got Jamison Crowder, who's a good slot receiver, um, but on a team that has other offensive weapons, who I would feel to be more superior than himself. And instead, basically, all you have is Brashad Perriman and you have Josh Doxson, who neither one really exemplifies anything more um, than what they already have in Jamison Crowder. So that's where I find my concern. It's just the fact that I still don't know if the Jets were able to go out there and get a wide receiver they feel comfortable as naming the number one. So maybe we see the Jets go out there and take a few more wide receivers in this last rounds 5, 6, and 7 in hopes that one of them kind of cements themselves as eventually that one or two later on.
yeah, I mean, I have no problem with teams double dipping, triple dipping into one position, and
Yeah, for sure.
one of them works. I feel like the odds of that are pretty good. So we will see. But I mean, as Patriots fans, um, I hope the Jets fucking suck. So from that perspective, I love the moves.
All right, so we have talked about 4 of our takes thus far. We will finish off with our 5th and final kind of takeaway that we have from this draft. Um, and that's going to be basically the absence of quarterbacks taken in the second and third round. I for sure thought that we would have seen at least 3 quarterbacks go in the second and third.
Yeah, I would agree with you. What did we get? Just one with Hurts?
Got Jalen Hurts to the Eagles, which I saw as a questionable pick. Clearly a pick that was made out of the uncertainty of the healthiness of their starting quarterback in Carson Wentz. But I mean that still to me is a bit of confusion, considering that in rounds 2 and 3 you would think that a team like the Colts or the Patriots, you know what, even a team like Tampa, who, yes, they've got a quarterback, but none of these quarterbacks are by any means long term. I would have expected a quarterback to be taken by them. And for them to not take a quarterback now, I guess maybe that shows that the mock drafts of all these teams all had undervalued these quarterbacks, and maybe we're seeing that now in the fact that they think that they can get the Jake Fromms or the Jacob Easons later, in the 5th and 6th round, and if that's the case, good for these teams basically taking that risk and saying we can get our guy in these later rounds. But I would be absolutely perplexed if I did not see at least 3 quarterbacks taken in the 4th round. Truth.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the weirdest as far as quarterbacks being drafted. When you talk about quarterbacks outside of the top 3 to 4, I think it's probably the weirdest year we've seen in quite some time. Like probably since we've been alive and we're competent enough to watch football.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, it was mind blowing. I mean, I know I went back at about 11 p.m. and just double checked like through rounds 2 and 3 to make sure that Fromm or Eason didn't go off the board at some point, and I just missed it because I was like, "There's no way in hell that these guys are still available."
Yeah. And the crazier thing about it too is the fact that we saw the Saints trade up twice, Patriots trade up twice, and both times for each, you could have said they're going for a quarterback.
Yeah,
Yet both times for each teams, they go out there and they get linebackers, they get a little edge rush, they get a cornerback. I mean, it was shocking. It was shocking
well,
to see that the only team to pull a trigger on a quarterback was the Eagles, who have a quarterback literally less than 25 years of age in Carson Wentz.
yeah. Well, what's interesting to me, like going off your point, is like especially when you talk about the Patriots and the Saints trading up, is like you see these teams that for sure don't have a set in stone backup plan, and in the Patriots case, don't even have a starting quarterback plan. You see them trading up, but they're not trading up to get a quarterback. So I would just assume that their general manager, head coach, GM, whoever of these teams that are trading up, it's like they're confident. It's like either number one, either they know or they're like either they're fully confident that no team is going to draft a quarterback within the next 30 rounds or 30 picks, or they just don't want them. And it's just it's very interesting to me, especially in the Patriots case. I find that very interesting. So we'll see what happens tomorrow, though.
I mean, I fully expect that we're going to see an absolute load of quarterbacks go in this 4th round. Um, Very surprised that the Saints did not take a quarterback, especially with the fact that they lose Teddy Bridgewater. Drew Brees was contemplating retirement and was on the verge of retirement last year, only to pull out in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah,
I mean, that in itself, I would be saying, yeah, the Saints are probably going to go out there and take a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round. They don't go after Jordan Love in the 1st. My Packers take him. Absolutely go fuck myself. Awful pick as far as I'm concerned. We won't go into it. But they stay away from Jordan Love. Now they stay away from Jacob Eason. They stay away from going after, I mean, any other quarterback. Fromm, Hurts. They don't take any of them. And
yeah. No, it's
4th round and Fromm and Easton are both still there. It's going to be quite interesting as to see what actually happens in this 4th round. I
yeah.
I believe that we're going to see teams start trading up quickly in this 4th round, knowing that no quarterback outside of Hurts was taken in that 2nd, 3rd round, day 2.
Well, I think you saw. It's like in the first round, you saw. I think it's either 6 or 7 wide receivers go in the first round, and you saw a lot of trade movement to get up and get those guys. So I think it's kind of teams just adjusting to the market in a way. I think once one team drafts a QB, I think you're going to see just an onslaught of teams drafting up, all of a sudden seeing that, oh shit, other teams are going for QBs. We got to go get our backup guy, go get our guy of the future. So I think it's going to be a what's it called when a mountain just
An avalanche.
yeah, I think it's going to be an avalanche of late round quarterback draft picks. I think once one team does it, everyone's going to do it. And I will say,
Yeah.
I hope, I've been saying this, Connor knows this, or the VP knows this. I have been saying this for so long. Jake Fromm to the fucking Pats. Lock it in. If it happens, make it a 3-time dynasty. He is the most Patriots quarterback I have ever seen come out of the NCAA.
Wow. And you know what? I'm not going to agree with it, but I'm also going to say that I think that Fromm will be a Patriot. I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. I think
I
Fromm
think you will
will
too.
be a
I
Patriot.
think you will too.
I
I think
think
he's going to start at some point.
he could. He easily could. I think Saints are going to shoot first. I think the Saints take Easton, however. And I think that the Patriots are going to see that. And as far as Belichick wants to say, I'm cool and collective, I'm going to do as I please. I think that whenever that line is drawn and Easton's gone, I think that they're going to make a move. Because after Easton and Fromm are gone, all of a sudden it kind of dips a little bit in the quarterback conversation.
Huge.
And I don't think that Belichick is going to want to miss out on that. I think the Saints and I think the Patriots both get what they believe to be their quarterbacks for the future.
Yeah, I completely agree. One thing that's interesting, so like we've already had the free agency period and everything. So like if you were a team that was gonna have 3 quarterbacks on your roster and you didn't plan on drafting a quarterback in the draft, you would already have 3 quarterbacks, right? Patriots have 2 quarterbacks on their roster right now, post free agency. So they're definitely taking a quarterback in this draft. It's just a matter of who. I think Jake Fromm fits the bill in every way.
Yeah, I mean, I could see Fromm definitely filling that void for the
I
Patriots.
love Fromm.
They have Stidham. I know they have Brian Hoyer on the roster, but Brian Hoyer definitely is not that long-term solution. And as far
No,
as Stidham is concerned, Stidham could, but I'm
we'll
not
see.
I'm
We'll
not
see.
going to sit there and say that I feel confident with Jared Stidham being that franchise quarterback for the Patriots. I think it would make a lot more sense for them to still take a risk here and take Easton or Fromm and at least make it a competitive quarterback room for them and see who actually becomes that starting spot for them.
Yep, I agree. We'll see. I mean, I again, I every single time the Patriots have been on the clock, I have guessed who they're going to draft, and every single time I've been 0 for 5. So I say it's going to be Fromm. It's probably not. We will see. No telling. But like we said, I think once the quarterbacks start getting drafted, it's going to be an avalanche of quarterbacks that we've never heard of before. And I mean, I feel like at least one of these guys in the bottom rounds like ultimately hits every couple of years. So we'll have to watch this video 5 years down the road, see if one of them ended up making it big.
Yep, definitely. All right, guys. With that said, that does round off our top takeaways from this draft. I do hope you guys liked the video. After round 3 of 4, 5, 6, and 7 tomorrow, we're gonna try and do another video where we're just gonna talk about more of like the winners that we liked in the draft. Once again, talking about picks that we liked, picks that we didn't like, the situations that we're going to see come next year. For example, Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers. What the fuck? I'm still kind of confused. But we're gonna go over that, guys. We're gonna basically do a deep dive into what these draft picks mean for next year. So hope to catch you guys next video. Hope you like this one. Please subscribe if you're not. If you're not subscribed and you don't want to subscribe, I get it. I understand. We're young. I'd really like it if you did, though. All
Oh,
right.
fuck you. Fuck you if you don't subscribe.
I didn't say that. That was Brian,
I said it.
not me. All right.
I'm 5 glasses deep. I'm sorry.
This is the
I'm
VP.
not actually.
I'm out. Brian, pieces. Guys, we'll see you next week.
See ya.